Wanted to start this morning, though, as we often do on Tuesday mornings. We've missed him for a little while, and he's back with us today. His Excellency David Comissiong, Barbados Ambassador to CARICOM. Good morning and welcome home.
Morning, Tisha. It's a pleasure to be here.
As always.
Yeah, we had that break for the Olympics, but we are back now.
Absolutely. It was Olympics and crop over, and there was a lot happening here in Barbados. And it wasn't even the last few weeks. I mean, it's been the entire year because we had World Cup cricket. And so it truly has been a very, very hectic year for us. But there's been a lot happening across the region. And I know that the 47th regular meeting of the Heads of Government of CARICOM happened as well, and that's where we want to focus today.
Yes, I want to report on that meeting because the meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government is like the high point of the CARICOM agenda. You know, we have two physical face-to-face meetings of our Heads of Government every year. We have the main meeting in July. We have what we call the intersessional meeting in February, and incidentally, Barbados will host the next intersessional in February of next year. But in between those two major physical meetings, our heads of government have 4 virtual meetings every year. So in total, we have 6 meetings per year of our CARICOM Heads of Government. So the last major one was in July between the 28th and 30th. But so this is the first opportunity really to report on that meeting, which was held in Grenada. And very important meeting. Obviously I was there. I actually went in a little early. I was able to go on a tour of CARICOM even before the meeting started, to see firsthand the damage done to CARICOM, because as you would imagine, what dominated that Heads of Government meeting in Grenada was Hurricane Beryl and the damage done by Hurricane Beryl. So I would call it the Hurricane Beryl Heads of Government Conference. So we did go to CARICOM. We saw the tremendous devastation done to that island, but on a positive note, we were able to engage with the Guyana military contingent that is in CARICOM, helping to rebuild CARICOM. And having done that, then the next big event, even prior to the start of the conference, was in Grenada. They have built a CARICOM roundabout where they are paying honor to all of the CARICOM member states, and I represented Barbados at the official opening of that roundabout, and then it was on to the meeting itself, and I would say a very important meeting. Some of the new things that occurred, we for example, we brought in Curacao as a new associate member. Some of the symbolic things that happened, we conferred the CARICOM's highest award on Sir Clive Lloyd and so forth. So those were some of the elements of the opening ceremony before we actually got into the main business of the meeting.
Well, that's all very interesting. And what sticks with me is the fact that you called it the Beryl meeting. And we know for more reasons than one, it would have to dominate all of the discussion. So coming out of what was done, what actions will CARICOM take to be able to assist CARICOM, Petit Martinique, to be able to try to get back to some semblance of normalcy in the short to medium term?
Well, the first point that needs to be stressed is what came out at that meeting was that the consensus was that the most effective response to that crisis caused by Beryl, and Beryl actually affected 8 CARICOM, either states or associate states, but that the most effective response has come from CARICOM itself. you know, and so whether you heard that message from the Prime Minister of Grenada, you heard that message from the Prime Minister of St. Vincent, so it just brings out, you know, the message that we have to, first and foremost, we have to depend on ourselves. There's no big brother or big sister out there in the international community looking out for us. And so they made the point that it has really been CARICOM, fellow member states responding. So that's number one. Secondly, they have set up a special prime ministerial subcommittee headed by Prime Minister Motley to raise funds, to go on a venture to raise resources to help rebuild. And Sidima gave us an explanation at the conference of the damage done. President Irfan Ali also gave us an outline of the damage done specifically to the agricultural sector, because as you know, he is in charge of the 25 by 25 project, this food agricultural development project to reduce our regional food import bill by 25%. And in fact, he reported that the World Food Program had done a survey in April of this year, which indicated that the efforts that we were making to improve our agricultural and food production were actually succeeding, and that in fact we had reduced our food insecurity by 17%, and that we had in fact reduced our extra-regional food import bill by 12%. So we had accomplished a half of that 25%. But we don't know what the situation is now, because Beryl did significant damage to, first of all, the Jamaican agricultural sector. Of course, it damaged St. Vincent and Grenada, and it also did tremendous damage to Barbados's fishery sector. So thus far, they have calculated, outside of Barbados's fisheries, they've calculated the Beryl damage preliminary at $160 US million, $160 million US dollars. So aside from setting up the special prime ministerial subcommittee, we have determined that we are going to COP29 in November. We are going with one CARICOM position, because we are going to be speaking very, very firmly on the fact that our small island developing nations are on the front line of this climate crisis, and that it is ridiculous that we can get this kind of damage, but there are no loss and damage funds to call upon to help us rebuild. So there was a sense of, I would say, anger at the meeting, and a resolve that this nonsense of having these COPs and, you know, going through the motions, that really has to end. And we will also be setting up a donors conference on the margins of the COP, because the leaders are determined that this repair bill that Beryl has delivered to us, and by November, God knows what other damage, you know, how many other hurricanes we might experience between now and November. But we will be making a very serious demand of the relevant countries in the international community who are really responsible for this global warming, that they have to step up and do the necessary to help with these bills. Also, there was a lot of discussion about our CRIF, the Caribbean Catastrophe Risk Insurance Facility, and the heads were very displeased. You know, the whole idea of CRIF was that you have these parametric policies where you don't actually have to wait to measure the damage done based on the velocity of the winds, the amount of rainfall. They wouldn't do a calculation and make a payout. But it turns out that the Beryl experience has shown that is very unsatisfactory. That there's perhaps something wrong with these parametric measurements, because a lot of the damage is not being measured, and therefore some of the insurance payments that we expected have not been forthcoming. So there was a very serious discussion about the need to reform the CRIF, and our ministers of finance will be meeting with the CRIF to look at how that insurance system could be reformed, so that we could be more sure that there will be insurance money when these kinds of disasters hit us. So, as I said, Beryl really dominated the meeting. It made us focus on issues of climate change, and it made us focus on what we need to do to be able to have resources to respond to crises like Beryl.
And I know response is only one side of it. For us in the Caribbean, it will call for a lot of preparation as well. How does something like the Bridgetown Initiative and the work that has gone into that prepare us to be more readily prepared for eventualities like this one?
Well, we continue to press forward with the Bridgetown Initiative, and we continue to try to mobilize support internationally for the Bridgetown Initiative. So all of the things that I spoke about, the response that we propose to make to the damage done by Beryl, the response we propose to make at COP29, those are all in keeping with where the Bridgetown Initiative is taking us in any event. In addition to the Bridgetown Initiative, we also now have the Antigua and Barbuda agenda for small island developing states. As you know, we had this SIDS, the fourth International SIDS conference. So Antigua and Barbuda were able to report on the outcomes of that conference. And so in addition to the Bridgetown Initiative and the demands of the Bridgetown Initiative, we now also have the Antigua and Barbuda agenda. And that agenda sets out a 10-year time frame for achieving some of these demands, greater protection, building resilience for small island developing states against the climate crisis. So the CARICOM is really in the vanguard globally of the efforts to address the climate crisis, especially for small island developing states, and also we are in the vanguard of the effort to reform the international financial institutions. In fact, I would say the whole international economic order, to make it much more fair and protective of developing countries like ours. So we can, and that again, that was stressed at the conference, that when you look around, it is really CARICOM that is in the vanguard of these very important initiatives. And so the point was made again and again that CARICOM is really proving its worth, whether it is in helping member states respond to disasters like Beryl, or it is in really leading the international movement to reform important global structures and processes. It is CARICOM really pushing the envelope.
And I know Prime Minister David Comissiong of Grenada, ironically, this was his opportunity to kind of step into the leadership seat at CARICOM as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, he shone at the meeting. He took over chairman. He's the new chairman. And Grenada is responsible for science and technology within the CARICOM quasi-cabinet. So he came to the meeting with a very important initiative in the area of science and technology, specifically information communications technology. He came with an agenda for digital resilience, building digital resilience in the Caribbean. And under his lead, we're going to set up a digital skills fund. The idea will be to train no less than 10,000 of our CARICOM citizens in areas pertaining to the digital economy, cyber security, data analytics, etc., etc. The idea is that we, artificial intelligence, we must now position ourselves for this digital future. We must equip our citizens with the skills to be able to tap into, doing remote working where they can live in the Caribbean but be employed globally, through the digital technologies. We are also going to pioneer telemedicine using the digital technologies to make medical services more widely available. So, as one of the younger, I think he's the second young. No, I think President Ali is younger than him, but as one of the younger prime ministers, he is really leading in a very exciting way in that new sphere of activity, digital resilience. So that was important. That was something new that was added to the CARICOM agenda by him. Also adding something new to the agenda was Prime Minister Motley with the health development partnership for Africa and the Caribbean. This is a new health initiative that is being pioneered by Barbados, Rwanda, and Guyana in the first instance. And this is an initiative where we are going to take more control of our whole health system, public health. At one level, we are going to be setting up factories, pharmaceutical companies to actually manufacture much more of our own pharmaceuticals in the Caribbean and Africa, including vaccines. But this health development partnership also has aspects pertaining to education for health workers, making sure we are able to retain our highly trained and educated health workers in the Caribbean and Africa. Everything to do with how we can develop, how we can partner between the Caribbean and Africa to leverage our resources in the health field to develop much more self-reliant and robust health system. So we had with us Dr. Haile Getahoon, an Ethiopian medical specialist who is who was actually part of the Barbados delegation, and he presented the Health Development Partnership. And the idea is that although Barbados, Rwanda, and Guyana are leading it, that the other CARICOM countries are welcome to join in it. So the meeting dominated by Beryl, also looking at the traditional CARICOM agenda, reporting back on whether CSME, but adding some new elements in terms of the Health Development Partnership, in terms of the digital resilience. So we did what we expect of CARICOM now as a mature organization, taking care of the fundamental aspects of our agenda, but also being futuristic, looking at challenges down the road and adding new elements to our agenda.
All right, so some very interesting stuff coming out of the meeting then. Is interesting that you called it the Beryl meeting, obviously because of the direction that it took. But with so many other things happening across the region, you obviously would have had to take a peek back at what's happening in Haiti, definitely what's happening in Cuba and a few other areas as well.
Yes, you're quite right. In fact, another feature of the meeting was the fact that we had with us Senator Edgar LeBlanc Fields, who is currently the chair of Haiti's Presidential Transitional Council. So in a sense, he's the interim president of Haiti. He came to the meeting, and that is significant because he is representative of this new transition process that is in place, and he was able to give a measured but to some extent an encouraging report. I mean, the most promising thing he said was that he felt that the security situation was improving somewhat, with the presence of the 400 Kenyan police personnel in Haiti now. And a sign of the improvement was that some 80,000 students from the Port-au-Prince metropolitan area were able to sit their exams. So some schools have reopened, some level of normalcy, but he did stress that in spite of these encouraging signs that the security situation is still dire, the humanitarian situation is still dire. So we heard him, we listened very carefully to him. The heads pledged that they're going to stay the course with Haiti. Countries pledged humanitarian aid to Haiti. The Bahamas indicated that it is reviving its own diplomatic presence in Haiti. So that was very important as we continue to keep tabs on what is happening in Haiti. Our eminent persons group, it was indicated that they would be back in Haiti in August to continue their work. We also looked at Cuba. We are very concerned about the humanitarian situation in Cuba caused by this U.S. blockade of Cuba and the fact that they have placed Cuba on this list wrongfully of state sponsors of terrorism. And so we felt it necessary to issue a statement on Cuba. That statement in which we express alarm at the growing humanitarian situation resulting from the 62-year-old trade embargo imposed on Cuba by the government of the United States. The long-standing embargo has been wrongfully imposed on the Cuban people and must be removed. And so the CARICOM issued a very strong statement calling for both the removal of the blockade or embargo and also the removal of Cuba from the list of state sponsors of terrorism. But we went further because we indicated that we feel constrained to help Cuba in this with this humanitarian crisis, that CARICOM countries will be donating humanitarian supplies to Cuba.
All right, I want to thank you. Quite a comprehensive review of the 47th regular meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government of CARICOM that happened in Grenada just a few weeks ago. We certainly look forward to all of the positive things that will come out of the work that the heads of government are doing, trickle down to the rest of us all across the region. So thank you, as always, for coming in and sharing with us. We most certainly look forward to hearing more about what's happening across CARICOM.
My pleasure, Tisha. We just need our citizens to know that we are doing work. We have a very important collective agenda, and it's just important that we all keep very committed to it and keep pushing it as much as possible.
Absolutely. All right, Ambassador David Comissiong, Barbados Ambassador to CARICOM, giving us an update on all that happened at the last CARICOM meeting.
Morning, morning, morning.